You're lying in a rock shelter, roughly 50,000 years ago, and the fire beside you has burned down to embers. Somewhere past the tree line, a call rises and cuts off. Sharp, close, wrong. You don't move. You barely breathe. Every human who has ever lived, all the way back past the invention of language, spent close to a third of their life doing exactly this, lying still in total dark, trying to tell the difference between wind and something that wants to eat you. Right now, you probably sleep behind a locked door in a climate-controlled room with a phone flashlight one tap away if something startles you. That single fact, an uninterrupted, undefended 8 hours, is one of the strangest luxuries in the history of the species. For most of human existence, closing your eyes after dark wasn't rest. It was risk management. So how did early humans survive the one stretch of every single day when they were slow, half-blind, and completely exposed, the 12-plus hours between sunset and sunrise, night after night, for hundreds of thousands of years, with nothing but a fire and each other? In 2015, Edgard Camars and a team at IFES, the Catalan Institute of Human Paleoecology in Spain, tried a strange approach to an old question. They pulled 124 modern forensic case files, real injuries from lion, tiger, bear, and leopard attacks, and compared the wound patterns to marks on fossilized Neanderthal bone. One case stood out. A child's skull, recovered from Cova Negra in Valencia, carried puncture wounds that matched almost exactly the bite radius of a big cat. Not a spear wound. Not a fall. A predator at close range on a member of a species we like to picture as tough and fully in control. The comparison didn't prove every mark on every bone was an attack, but it confirmed the pattern was real, and big cats are ambush hunters, built for low light and thick cover, at their most dangerous against a target that can't see them coming. Everyone pictures Neanderthals as rugged apex predators, dominant in their landscape. The forensic record says otherwise, at least some of the time. For long stretches of prehistory, humans weren't always the hunter. Sometimes they were the thing being hunted, and night was when those odds got worse. So what tipped the balance back? Part of the problem was pure biology, and it's a problem you still carry. In 1990, Christine Curcio and her team at the University of Washington mapped the human retina in extraordinary detail, counting photoreceptors across 8 donated eyes. Their count, an average human retina holds roughly 92 million rod cells, the receptors built for motion and light in near darkness, against just 4. 6 million cones, the receptors that give sharp detail and color. That's close to 20 rods for every cone. It sounds like a night vision advantage. It mostly isn't. Rods can't resolve fine detail or color at all, which is why everything after dark looks flat and slightly out of focus, even once your eyes adjust. A lion, by comparison, has a reflective layer behind its retina that bounces light back through the rods a second time, doubling its night sensitivity. Humans have no such layer. In the dark, you are, for practical purposes, working blind, reduced to sound, smell, and guesswork against animals' purpose built for exactly those conditions. Everyone assumes fire's first job in human history was cooking dinner. The truth is, its earliest confirmed use looks a lot more like a floodlight than a stove. In 2012, archaeologist Francesco Berna and a team from Boston University published findings from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa's Northern Cape. Using microscopic analysis of ash and burned bone buried deep in the cave's sediment, they confirmed controlled fire use dating back roughly 1 million years. At the time, the oldest secure evidence of fire anywhere in the archaeological record. 1 million years. That's hundreds of thousands of years before Homo sapiens existed as a species. The location mattered as much as the age. This fire sat deep inside the cave, in a chamber no wildfire could plausibly wander into on its own. Someone carried it there and kept it burning. Firelight doesn't just add warmth. It pushes back the radius in which a predator can approach unseen, and it exploits the one edge a rod-heavy human retina actually has. Rods are extremely sensitive to sudden light, so even a small flame at a shelter's edge can flare a nocturnal hunter's vision and buy a few critical seconds of hesitation. But fire alone doesn't explain how anyone actually got real rest with a threat like that circling the dark. In 2015, UCLA sleep researcher Jerome Siegel and his colleagues published a study in Current Biology built on 94 adults across 3 modern hunter-gatherer and forager horticulturalist groups: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, none of them with access to electricity, walls, or locks. Using wrist-worn activity trackers across more than 1,000 nights combined, the team found something unexpected. These groups slept only 7 to 7, 1 hours a night, no more, often less, than the average person in an industrialized country. They fell asleep about 3 hours after sunset, not the moment it got dark, and woke roughly an hour before sunrise, timed less to light than to the coldest point of the night. And across all 3 languages studied, the researchers couldn't find a native word for insomnia. Everyone assumes ancient humans, worn out from hunting and gathering, slept longer and deeper than we do. The data says the opposite. Modern hunter-gatherers get measurably close to what people in cities get, and simply don't seem to resent being awake in the dark the way we do. So if fire didn't buy unbroken rest, and hunter-gatherer sleep isn't some undisturbed paradise, what actually kept people from unraveling under a threat that never fully went away? Historian Roger E. Kirk at Virginia Tech spent years combing diaries, court records, and medical texts for an answer, and eventually turned up more than 2,000 references, dating as far back as Homer's Odyssey, to something modern culture had simply forgotten: segmented sleep. A first sleep of 3 or 4 hours. A deliberate waking period around midnight, sometimes called the watch, used to tend the fire, listen, check on a sick child, or just sit alert in the dark. Then a second sleep, until dawn. The real defense was never the fire by itself. It was building a scheduled check-in directly into the architecture of rest. You're still in that rock shelter 50,000 years ago, and the coals are still glowing. Only now you understand what's actually happening. Not helplessness, but a system, engineered by a species with weak night eyes and no claws. Refined night after night out of sheer necessity. Humans didn't outlast the dark by being stronger than it. They outlasted it by refusing to sleep straight through it, together, in shifts, for most of human history. Somewhere along the way, that shared vigilance got traded for a locked door and one uninterrupted stretch of sleep, and quietly. We lost the one thing our ancestors never had the luxury of losing: each other, awake at 3 a.m., making sure everyone made it to morning.